sure enough, man, when you pulled back and you looked, they were on the ground. Their heads were all up, looking at the CERT team. Why were they looking at the CERT team? What was interesting about going to the prison systems and understanding gangs and how they run things, it's probably the most hyper-rational environment. It's all about business. I assume everybody's 6 seconds away from a shooting spree, and I don't want to be the one to trigger it. Most of the reasons people give for not training is the exact reason why they'll profile as a really good victim. Yeah. So those are the people that really need it, guys. I really appreciate you interviewing me and doing, because again, people respond to this information a certain way. Some people really aren't comfortable with it. The fact you can learn this stuff without becoming one of them. Right. You can take the best. It's like, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can actually get some really good information that you can pass on to you and your students.
And this is to me, just a primary case where that easily could have been avoided. You could walk away.
Good information for us, if we need it. Again, the challenge is, how do we take that information and not seem like we're psychotic?
When I read your book, Violence is the Answer, and it was recommended by a student of mine, and I was fascinated that you went into the prison system to understand violence on a different level. Why did you pick going into the prison versus going down the combat sport route with it?
I found growing up, my grandfather, like I told you, South Boston, so he dealt a lot. He also was a jazz musician, and he dealt a lot with criminals all the time. He used to have to get paid by mobsters and stuff like that. And he used to go in, and he knew that. And I remember he was taking me around. I was probably like 4 or 5 years. There's this great picture of me, and I'm in this little this little proper outfit that my mother had got me, with a little hat and everything. And my grandfather's taking me, and he's got a big smile on his face. And he told my mom he was taking me to the circus, and he took me to the Smokers in Boston, which were like kind of the underground fights, and we had it was so great. And I remember him talking to me, and he was telling me about this guy. I think it was Whitey Ford, and he was a really famous boxer in Boston. And Jack Dempsey used to use him as a punching bag. I mean, he just ruined this guy, where he was there. But there was another thing where he mentioned another boxer who had to throw a fight. And I didn't know what that meant. And he told me.
Because everybody knows nobody takes a dive in my fights. Unlike his.
I remember going, but Pop, this guy's a great fighter. Why wouldn't he just fight these guys and tell him he's not going to do it? And he goes, Timmy, you don't understand. He said, these guys would kill him, kill his family, kill everybody. And as a little kid, I just remember that came to me. I was like, what is this, So I'd met people throughout my I won't say I grew up in rough areas and stuff, but let's just say that because during those times in the 70s, usually when you went to a martial arts place or something like that to train, other than the bases, it was in rough parts of town. It wasn't in the best parts of town. Well, it isn't like now where it's kind of ubiquitous and everybody's training everywhere. It was still, it wasn't as popular back then. So I started getting involved with some kids that were from the criminal element and stuff like that. And it was really interesting. I found them to be, believe it or not, way more ethical, way more clear in their thing. Because what I learned what was interesting about going to the prison systems and understanding gangs and how they run things, it's probably the most hyper-rational environment. It's horrible. I wouldn't want to live in it, but it's hyper-rational. It's very understandable because everything relies upon, it's all about business. They want to run the yard. They want merchandise coming in, and they want to make sure that nobody screws with their money. Right. How do they do that? Well, it has to be a credible threat of violence. And, oh, by the way, you can't just randomly use violence. You can't go out there and just have a fight. Because if you shut down business and that fight wasn't sanctioned, you're going to have to deal with somebody on that. And so what's really interesting is how they look at it. And the other thing that was really interesting with them is when you talk to them, they don't talk about technique or anything like that. They just look at what works. And I talked about my, I don't know, Gus, if you ever heard me tell this story, But the thing where it really hit me was I had a bunch of buddies in corrections, and the guy knew my training. He'd gone through my training and everything. He goes, "Hey, I want to show you something." So he showed me a yard fight, and I'm going, "Wow, this is really, interesting," and stuff like that. And I watched the fight go down. The CERT team comes in, the prison SWAT team comes in and squelches it right away. And I was focusing on all that stuff. And then he showed me training. He saw this is 2 guys from the Black Gorilla family the next day were training, and they were doing it. They were doing these weird angles. They were really, it was like they had their hands like this, and I said, well, maybe they're mimicking a shank or something. And he goes, "What do you think they're doing?" I go, "I don't know. Is this like I think I said something like, what is this their version of like Jailhouse Rock, which was a martial art thing, or something like that?" I didn't know. He goes, "No." He goes, "Let's go back to that video." So we go back to the video, and he shows it to me. He goes, "I want you to watch it this time." He goes, "Don't pay attention to fight. Watch all the guys on the ground that are prone on the ground. What are they doing?" Sure enough, man, when you pulled back and you looked, they were on the ground. Their heads were all up looking at the CERT team. Why were they looking at the CERT team? Because that was new equipment. They had a whole new setup.
Right.
What were these guys doing? Those weird arcs and angles? These were all the vulnerable areas of the body armor where they know they could get a shank into them.
Wow.
They immediately were planning for that in case they needed that the next day. And that's it. Their whole environment, they immerse themselves. I mean, when I learned these guys, they would sit there. One of the guys is a really good friend of mine, just a massive dude, just great guy, and powerful man. And he kind of befriended one of the old time gang members. And the guy said to him, he goes, "Hey," he goes, "you had leg day, didn't you?" He goes, "What?"
It's leg day.
He goes, "Why?" He goes, "Because I know on leg day," he goes, "you're a step or 2 behind." He goes, "What?" They could count. They knew he was coming out. They know how many steps it got to each cell because they would plan. They'd found in these guys, sometimes they had broomsticks that they hid and stuff, and they had planned. They took this one guy's cell down. They ripped back the bunk. He had chalked out to the degree one of the prison guards, size and everything and vulnerability areas, and he'd been planning to take this guy out. They immersed themselves in it. So it's a petri dish of asocial violence. And, because it's something that is predicated on violence, there's a lot we can learn from that. Yeah, again, we're not glorifying these guys. Right. We're not doing it, but they can't afford to get it wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's where there's some really good information for us to look at. And again, it kills a lot of fantasies too when you see that. I mean, I had to change some of my methods when I saw some of that, and the way I approached training. It was very sobering.
Yeah, it's like the epitome of truly being like the student of the game, right? You're every nook and cranny. It's like, like really getting to know anatomy as a self-defense instructor. Again, makes you a better instructor, because it's like you're always talking about how to cause injury. It's like you're so much better when you learn in the anatomy how the body works and ticks and things. Well,
there's a famous article in the New Yorker. I think it's around 2000. I want to say early 2000s. They did it. It was about the Aryan Brotherhood, and they talk about the fact that they got a hit wrong. They were the ones that were the major hit. They were the ones, the enforcers for the most part. Like they protected John Gotti when he went in, the underboss of the Gambino family. It was the Aryan Brotherhood that protected him, not the gang. They paid off the Aryan Brotherhood to take care of him. What was interesting was they screwed a hit up where the guy didn't die. An edict came down after that they will all study anatomy and where to put the effort. And the idea was they weren't stabbing in the right areas to kill the guy, because by the time the CERT team got there, they took the guy, put him in protective custody. Now they're not going to have another chance at him. And so they failed. They couldn't afford that. They have to get it right every time. So again, they looked at anatomy not because they were trying to better themselves, because they wanted to know the most efficient ways and effective ways to kill.
I have detailed files on human anatomy.
Makes you a more efficient killer, right?
Correct.
And again, good information for us, if we need it. But again, the challenge is, how do we take that information and not seem like we're psychotic?
Yeah.
And that's it, because oftentimes it really makes people uncomfortable when you talk about this information. But again, if you just put it in the right context, people will listen.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, so as I wrap it up, Gus, I'm gonna have to chime in on this because this is the video that you sent to me. So talking about before about avoiding violence, because you don't, like you said, when violence is the answer, it's the only answer. There are times though when you can probably talk your way out, and I think this is one for sure. And you may have seen this video as well, Mr. Larkin. Let me put it up here.
Man, we got a brother in the building, a young man, a very young man, celebrating his birthday tonight. He been
So two guys having a squabble in a bar.
since day one, since this motherfucker open. This gentleman sitting at the bar, Mr. Mars, in his young 80s.
So long story short, two guys squabble in a bar. One guy, for whatever reason, they're arguing. The guy in white takes a smack at the other guy, and the guy, in the black just pulls out the gun, and, the rest is history. I don't know if the guy lived or died, but the point was that's something super avoidable. You're basically, I had another guest on, he always talks about from the Netherlands, and he says, like, I don't fight for ego. He's a bouncer.
My ego is very much in check right now. And what do I mean with this? First thing that pops in my mind, if somebody asks, why do you like this so much? It's the building of the people.
It's easy to get that rise and want to just go toe to toe with someone back, but you don't know what they've got. Like you were saying before, you're always going to assume people are bigger, faster, stronger, have weapons, things like that. Yeah. And this is, to me, just a primary case where that easily could have been avoided. You can walk away.
The other thing I tell people is, in a situation like that, is I treat everybody, when I'm in an unfamiliar environment and when I'm meeting somebody I don't know, and sometimes people say, oh, that sounds really paranoid way to live. And I was like, no, it's not paranoid. It's just, it really helps me put things in context. I assume everybody's 6 seconds away from a shooting spree. And I don't want to be the one to trigger it. Right. So how do I interact? Like people say to me all the time, oh my God, you're such a nice guy and you're this, and you're like, yeah, I am. But it also is a strategy. One, I want you comfortable around me. Two, I don't want you to know I know anything. Because if I need this information, I want it to be a complete and total surprise. And, oh, by the way, it's a great way to operate because it throws people off when you're there. I got to tell you that I think for all your students, everybody that's out there, here's something that you can get huge volumes of great information, and you don't have to train. You just got to read or listen to the audiobooks. If you get any of the books by Robert Greene, if you get something like 48 Laws of Power, or better, I think, is The Laws of Human Nature, and you immerse yourself in human nature and really understand how people communicate and operate, you will be able to avoid probably 95% of all incidents of triggering violence. Now you can, if you're just in it, then you're in it. But if it's having to do with a communication or something, and you really truly understand human nature and you can see where this person's coming from, it's really just amazing how you can just diffuse everything with just a couple of, just techniques of just how to talk to people. And stuff. Because oftentimes you'll see his first hit was to the face. What we do when we get in those situations, we want to shut off communication. Yeah. That's why everybody's always headhunting all the time. It's, I want to shut you up.
Gotta watch me.
And so it's a communication thing. And when you understand that, you just use these very simple techniques. I mean, I remember my buddy, he ran a strip club, a pretty famous strip club out here. And I used to go visit him all the time because I wanted to talk to him. That's the only reason I'd go.
Right.
But anyways, he had his doorman. When he came in, the first thing he did was he trained all of his doormen. He had excellent doormen. You came to Club Paradise. You got a handshake. You got, hey, we're really glad you're here. My name's Derek. Who are you? Boom. So the bouncers shook the hand of every customer coming in. So if they had to go take action later on, it's not, oh, here's an asshole bouncer. It's, oh shit, it's Derek. Oh, right. Hey, Derek, oh, hey, I'm sorry, man. It just diffused so much. It was probably one of the places that had probably the biggest high rollers at the time, and yet the least amount of problems. And it was just the way the staff approached things. They were highly competent if they had to put hands on people, but that wasn't the goal. The goal was for everybody to have a good time, make money, and do it. So again, just little things like that can keep you out of trouble. And again, I know it's not as sexy as learning like the new cool technique or how to use this particular knife that way, but that's what's going to save your life, most times, and the lives of your family and other things. What can you pass on to your loved ones? It's really understanding human nature. It'll solve so many problems. And again, Gus, going back to the prison, I really learned that too. They are masters at understanding human nature.
Yeah.
You know, they understand how people communicate, what they do. And again, that's another unintended lesson I got from studying that.
Right.
The other place I like to go, believe it or not, is Las Vegas. I sit and people watch for hours, and that's one of my favorite things to do. I do it on Fremont Street on the Strip, and I was just there not that long ago, and I love people watching. You get to see real behaviors because you have so many different types of people there interacting. And actually, I really enjoy going right after COVID because that's when everything was so crazy and everyone had been cooped up. It was just interesting watching people's behavior and how the people who would get triggered and the people you think would get triggered didn't get triggered. And, you know, it's I love that. I love doing that.
Yeah, Vegas is an awesome place for people watching. You can learn a hell of a lot out here.
Yeah.
You know?
And I would even say, like, even going back to the prison thing, those guys are probably masters of just even body language. And, oh, okay, this guy might be going for weapon. This guy might, you know.
There's a video that I have out there. It's a guy that ended up stabbing. It was a racial. It was a guy that's trying to get into the white Aryan nation. He stabbed a random African American. He didn't. This guy had nothing to do. He wasn't in the Black Gorilla family or anything like that. He was answering there was a killing earlier of a white national. And so he just went and killed this kid and you know, stabbed him like ungodly amount of times. I think it was like 68 times. But the interesting part about that was of the 68 stabs, I want to say 68, when the autopsy went down, only 2 were deemed lethal. Meaning, with medical attention, that guy could have survived. So he didn't have the targeting down, obviously, that like the Aryan Brotherhood talks about. Right. So that was just an interesting aside of it. The more interesting thing was when they interviewed this guy, and he says something at one point. He said, "I've seen things go down." He said, "I see an incident going down, and I watch that guy, and he goes, that guy doesn't know what's going on." He goes, "I know what's going on. He's about to get stabbed. He's about to get effed up, and that's not going to be me." Meaning he understood the body language, he understood the whole setup, and he realized this other individual had no clue what was going on. So again, and that's what you can teach. You can learn this stuff without becoming one of them.
Right.
You know, you can take the best. It's like, you know, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can actually get some really good information that you can pass on to you and your students. Right. That's just really, really useful because these guys have to survive in this environment. Yeah. You know, so there's going to be some good information there. Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, the trick is how do we pull it out and how do we put it to you in a way that you can make it useful for you rather than, oh my God, this is crazy. You know, why would I even care? So,
yeah. No, it's valuable stuff, man. I'm so glad we got the opportunity to speak to you. Last thing I want to just mention, even I'll put up your site here for people that are unaware. Obviously, you've written books and things like that, but for people that aren't as hip to Mr. Tim Larkin, go ahead and check out his YouTube page as well as his website. And if you're interested in training with you or becoming a client, is all your information available there too, sir?
Yeah, you know what? They can just go to surviveviolence.com and if you liked any of this stuff, I give a bunch of free information away. I mean, obviously, I'd love for people to be clients, but I also want you to be really comfortable before you make any sort of investment in any training. So I want to put out a lot of good information. Same thing with the YouTube channel. The videos you guys referenced are all on there, and I really appreciate it, guys. I really appreciate you, interviewing me and doing it because again, people respond to this information a certain way. Some people really aren't comfortable with it. The fact that you want to expose your folks to it, I really appreciate it. If they have any questions, please pass them on to me. I'll be glad to answer them.
Yeah.
And
love your work. Love your work. Please continue.
Thank you.
Please continue.
Yes.
Work.
Yeah. Making it easier for guys like us, because again, it's a grind. Like you're saying, a lot of people, they say they want this, but then they come in and it's like, oh, it's too tough. And then you kind of like try to, bring it home. It's like, was it too tough to learn how to possibly save your life? I mean, the training can be hard, but it's hard for a reason.
Yeah. Most of the reasons people give for not training is the exact reason why they'll profile as a really good victim.
Yeah.
So those are the people that really need it, And it's not what they think. I get it. You look at a UFC fight and you go, I could never do that or anything. That's not what it's about. It's about like we talked about a lot of concepts that really can help you that have nothing to do with physical training.
Yeah.
But you got to immerse yourself. The physical does help the mental, though.
Right.
Yes.
I do believe you have to have both.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Really good stuff and valuable stuff. I thank you so much for doing this with us, Mr. Tim Larkin. Yeah. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity.
That's right. It's the final part of our interview series with Mr. Tim Larkin. You know he's the author of When Violence is the Answer, among other great titles in the self-defense world. So drop your thoughts down below. Is there anything specific you learned this time around? I'll keep it real. For me as a martial artist and self-defense instructor, I can't help but nerd out on so many pieces of wisdom that people like Tim Larkin drop. That said, please do share the content with others that you think would get value from this info, or even those looking to train in self-defense or martial arts in some way. Hit that like button as well, which always helps to get the algorithm kicked into gear.
That's too easy.
Subscribe if you haven't already, because it costs you nothing and means the world to me, so we can keep growing the community. And hit that bell to be notified whenever we drop more vids like this. It's very important because the subscription is beautiful, but without that bell notification, you guys aren't guaranteed to be notified when the videos come out.
I'm on it, okay?
And do consider becoming a member of this channel to get even more exclusive content and access to videos like this one even earlier than the general public. Hey, I'll leave all of my socials here and here so you guys can stay in contact. And of course, I want to thank Mr. Tim Larkin and my guy Sifu Gus Gates for being a part of this video.
Hey, this is Tim Larkin. Thanks so much for watching Kung Fu Chronicles.
And while you're here, check out another self-defense geared video that you're going to enjoy over here. Guys, stay safe. See you all in the next round and keep punching.
Look at this one. Look at that one. Look at this one. Look at that one. Look, are you kidding me?